Shalom everyone. Look, I've made a previous video, the previous video of mine was about being careful what you agree with. And it was in a context of labeling other people. Now I want to remind you, this is a reminder, I've talked about this before in a couple of videos. Do not agree with affliction. When I'm saying never agree with affliction. Okay, let me give an illustration now. Let's say you were a child. Let's say when you were just growing up. You may have done things that your parents didn't want you to do, and of course you understand it was wrong. Okay? But let's say that your parents reacted bitter against you by hitting you with a belt or with a stick or by verbally assaulting you or humiliating you. Okay, listen, you did something they didn't want. Okay, that's a fact. Okay, you were wrong. And of course they can take action against that just to prevent it from happening if it's something that should be prevented. But the moment you notice your parents are vengeful, the moment you realize that it's not really about what you did, they just want to act out against you and not take responsibility for how they're feeling themselves, they are abusing you. Seriously, straight up. And listen, if a parent begins to accuse you, it's out of order immediately. I don't care what you did. I don't care. And the moment a parent begins to pick up a belt and hitting you, that's using a weapon against you. That's very insane, out of order, it's wicked. Because if those parents of yours would not pick up a weapon against their boss or against a coworker, but they do use a belt against you, come on, it's assault. Now listen, why am I saying this? It's because a lot of you folks who had parents doing such things to you, you've agreed with what your parents did onto you. You've agreed with affliction against you. And you know what? When you agree with affliction, you are agreeing with abuse. When you're agreeing with abuse, you're agreeing with Antichrist. By agreeing with Antichrist, you are blocking out God's blessings on your life. By doing that, you are listen, if affliction happened to you by the hands of your parents and you agree with it just because they are your parents, you've just participated in your own victimization by agreeing with it, and by doing that, those demons that were attached to your parents are now becoming attached to you. And listen, even if your parents stop doing what they are doing, you've agreed with it, so now those demons are stuck with you. And they're going to affect you further. Listen, look, another thing. Let's say a school teacher kicked you out of class because you were disturbing the class. Okay, it can happen, justly. But let's say the teacher has a bitter motive against you because he or she doesn't like you or they have something against you, and they're using they have chosen to only look at you in a negative way. That's not your fault. That's them choosing to hold on to a category. So they shouldn't do that at all. And others, especially students or pupils, will agree with the teacher because they want to get a good grade, of course. Nevertheless, it's evil. So you should not agree with what they're doing. Okay, you may have a role in it with your own behavior, but still what they did was wrong. And also, you have to acknowledge your part and repent from your part, and they have to repent of theirs also. Look, when an incident happens, it's seldom a random action. Often when an incident happens, there are many actors involved, and the victim may have played a role without the victim being aware of it. All people need to repent. Not just the one they label as a perpetrator, or not just a victim, all have to repent. But what happens often? We agree with affliction upon ourselves just to prevent others from further victimizing us. Or because we don't have the answers why it happens, we tend to blame ourselves because that's the easiest way. Listen, never agree with affliction. Look, even if you had a behavior or an issue that contributed to what they did to you, agree with harm upon yourself. Listen, if you have an issue that needs to be taken care of, you're not going to agree with harm against yourself in order to heal the issue. Okay? That's the same as saying, okay, I've broken a leg, so now I have to permit people to throw stones at me. Because them throwing stones at me will remind me to be careful how to treat my leg so that it won't be broken again. Even though it was not your fault that your leg was broken, it was just an accident that happened. You see how backwards that thinking is? I began this video with using examples of parents. You know why? Because many of us, we've endured affliction at the hands of people close to us. Now, those people that did affliction onto us, maybe they didn't know any better, okay? Maybe they didn't mean to. It can be that they have their own issues that need to be resolved, okay? That can be true. And there are cases when people did know better, but they are just bad people. It doesn't matter whether they were truly bad people or they just didn't know any better. Listen, never agree with affliction, okay? And that's something we often do. Look, I'm not promoting, let me say, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be responsible. But listen, even if you are responsible, you being responsible does not cancel out the irresponsibility of someone else. And that's a lie that a lot of people grow up with into this, what they call postmodern society. And that's that when you take responsibility, everything will go well. That's a lie. There are people around who just don't want to be responsible. They don't want to value other human life. They're only interested in their delusions. And they act out and victimize everyone that does not contribute to their delusions. Such people you have around. It doesn't matter how responsible you are, those people are just messed up people. Willingly insane people. So you're not going to agree with what they're doing onto you just because you may have made a mistake or you may have failed somewhere. Listen, you know why? You know why in during these times you see witchcraft becomes more and more open? Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. A lot of people have remarks that about all the symbolism and all the occult phrases in movies and in general in fashion and in society today. Let me tell you why those things are becoming more and more open. It's because people have people have gotten used to blaming themselves unconditionally so much that even when it's obvious that it's not them, they will have difficulty accepting that it's not them. You see, when now that they normalize witchcraft, basically, it adds insult to the injury. Because now it becomes more difficult to point out the perpetrators. Why? Because perpetratory behavior has become normalized. Look, when you have a community where they assault a victim, where they scapegoat someone, everyone has to agree that the scapegoat is guilty in order for the communal magic to work. The moment the victim or victims blame themselves without the aid of the community, it will have a negative impact on the community. Because now the community will have to answer why they are permitting an individual to be self-destructive. So what happens then? What then happens is that the community begins to mimic those self-destructive behaviors. So nobody would notice that they are permitting people to become self-destructive. And that's what's happening today with the normalization of witchcraft and the occult. And why? Because people have gotten helped you with this video. And may the grace of Christ be with you. Shalom.